All right, so this is a video that I wanted to do for a really long time, to just share some tips for both doing line art and coloring for animation, to not only make it go a little bit faster, be more economical with it and efficient, but also to help out your hands and yourself when you're working. It's really important to take care of yourself and be mindful of how your body feels as you're working to not overwork any part of yourself. And that's really important to me to be able to create things for a long time, okay, and enjoy creating them. It doesn't have to be painful or hard or make you tired all the time, okay? So based some really basic things, set a timer, make sure that you're working in an ergonomic way, by which I mean check your posture. If anything doesn't feel right, check your posture. A lot of times it comes down to that, whether it just be a tight neck, tight shoulders, back, maybe try a standing desk versus a sitting one. See what works for you, okay? As well as not working for hugely long amounts of time for both your hands, okay, as well as your eyes. Most people, I would say at this point, are looking at screens a lot. Make sure and take a break. Close your eyes. Just relax from the screen a bit. All right, so those are just some basic things. Now, going into more specifics, I've got this animation here. Reason why the background is pink is so that you can see the whites a little bit better. Well, at all. You wouldn't be able to see them with a white background. Okay, so I've got this animation. Parts of it are colored, parts of it are partially colored, parts of it are line art, and parts of it need to get some line art because she's not supposed to disappear yet. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the line art. I want to zoom in, not zoom out. All right. So first of all, I'm gonna turn on this sketch layer that I've got. All right. So, first of all, make sure that you have some way to have all your tools readily available. That can super help. As you can see, I got all sorts of different brushes here. And I've also got all of my character color palettes. So these are all the colors that the characters use, and so they're just right there and super available. That can be really good for being efficient. All right, so now specifically for line art stuff, all right? Let me pull up my sketch layer. There it is. All right. I'm actually going to turn off this pink for just a bit. Although, that's another tip actually to help out your eyes, is to have something below on the screen to darken up that whiteness. So maybe I think I will actually leave it on. That's a tip that I haven't been doing recently, and I need to protect my eyes. Okay, so usually when I'm doing line art, what I do, I use this kind of pencil-y type brush. I think it's set to pink. No, it's not. Curious. Oh, it's on the wrong layer. All right. And so I use this brush right here, okay? And obviously you can mess on most tablets, you can mess with the pressure. Most programs, you can mess with the pressure by going to some sort of profile editor, like here with pressure size up here, and adjust it from there any which way you want. Okay, sometimes I'll even have this out depending on how my hand is feeling and just kind of be messing with it, seeing how I want it to be for that given day or something like that. But typically I'll just use the default settings, and what I'll actually do is adjust the size. Okay, so it's at 40% size right now. I'm actually going to bump it up to 80%. Okay, and what this is going to do is that I'm barely pressing down on my pen. That's like medium pressure right there, and then if I really jam it in, it'll get to there. There's, as you can see from this line art that I've already done, I'm never going to get to that point in this line art. So, but by doing that, what I'm able to do is have a really light touch as I'm working, okay? And be able to, there, okay? Not have to press so hard for a long period of time, okay? As you probably noticed, I also like to use kind of more quick strokes. That way, if I make a mistake or I don't like the line, I can just do my trusty edit undo button, all right? and go from there. If I was doing a much longer stroke, like say that or whatever, and I didn't like a portion of it, then, and I did edit undo, then I'd have to redo that whole thing. So I like to work in shorter strokes. That might not work for you, and that's totally fine. However, if you also do a long stroke or need to do one, try to see if you don't, if you can not use the edit undo, and just maybe like here, it kind of overshoots it a bit. Just use an eraser instead and just erase the part that you don't like. Again, little tiny time-saving things that can add up in the long run. So that's my big tips for line art. Like I said, the size thing can work with any brush. If I just take a general pen brush like this, it's at 19.17. I can't tell you why it's at 19.17. Let's bump it up to 50 because we're brave and bold. And again, I'm barely pressing down here, and I'm still getting this variety of shapes. If I really push down, it's gonna bloop, 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 like that. But yeah, make the pens bigger, especially if, like me, you're finding that even if you put the pen setting on like the lightest touch, it's still not light enough for your hand, okay? So that's gonna be for line art, all right? For coloring, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to, don't worry, I'll show you. There she is. She didn't disappear. I'm gonna turn off actually my bottom sketch so that I can color. What can help is, of course, the trusty fill bucket. But what can help with using that fill bucket is adjusting the settings, as well as making sure your line art is really clean. If it's not and you have gaps, it's gonna bleed out, okay? Which is gonna make coloring take even longer. And coloring takes long enough. We don't need it to take longer. So like a gap like that, okay? It's gonna bleed out. So make sure that your line art is clean, and then when you go to fill it in, you can do that, all right? Now, I'm going to take a quick look at these settings, because these are really, really, really helpful. And that is the gap closer and the expand are usually what I mess with the most. So gap closer, what that's saying is how many pixels can there be a gap that it will fill in or not, okay? I have it set to 0, all right? Because I live dangerously. No, it's because it helps a lot for tiny pieces like this. So, like her hair. So, for example, if I set the gap closer to like 5 or something, and then I try to fill it in, you're gonna see that, fill it in 3 times, you're gonna see that there's these really big pieces that are not colored, okay? Same thing with the expand. If I put the gap closer to 0, but I also put the expand to 0, then it's going to have this little, not very pleasant kind of outline, because it's not going to go totally under the line art, all right? So I usually do it, I think, to 3 or so. If you put it too high, then it's going to bleed out of the line art, which also is not super pleasant. But depending on the thickness of your lines, you can adjust that expand so that it gets underneath like parts like here, okay? And it looks completely filled in. So yeah, those are going to be the 2 settings. The last tip I have, actually last 2 tips that I have of coloring. Number 1, if you have areas that are roughly in the same place. So for example, yeah, okay, so this shirt is pretty much in the same place for the next few frames, okay? If you have that, what you can do is that you can fill it, you can hit undo, and then let's say go to here or something like that, just for the sake of this example, and press that, and it's going to repeat that action when you press enter, okay? So what I did is I highlighted those frames and then pressed enter. And then it filled in the exact spot that I colored it, or I tapped to fill it in on all of those frames, okay? I will say that I don't use this as much anymore, because if there is a gap, then you're gonna have to spend some time fixing that. I mostly do the point and click adventure game because I can do it pretty quickly. All right, but that is an option. Now, the other trick that I love to do is to color by occlusion. It sounds fancy, but it's pretty simple, okay? Color the biggest parts first, and then color the smallest parts with a brush that is set to behind. So let's walk through this. Biggest parts here are going to be the arms, which I can color in super easily right here, and the pants, which I can color in super easily like that. All right, and we do have a tiny part there, but overall, the pants are going to be the biggest part, okay? Then, as we're going down to the smaller sections, we have the belt, okay, which can do with the fill bucket pretty well, all right? But this buckle, I don't want to do with the fill bucket, right? It would be doable, but it's finicky and it doesn't look nice, I don't think, because it kind of bleeds over a little bit unless I adjusted these settings again. But I'm going to keep the settings how they are because there's a much easier way of doing it. So I'm going to take this white, okay, which is what the buckle color is. It's set to color right now. I'm going to do my keyboard shortcut and set it to behind, all right? And then I can just scribble there and it doesn't get on anything else, and it's wonderful and it's beautiful. And it also helps too if you're having parts, yeah, like here, something like that. So if I colored the face super quick and I colored the hair quick, right here actually. Okay, so as you can tell, this didn't get totally colored with the skin color, but if I didn't want to accidentally get it on the hair like that, I can also set it to behind and just do that. So yeah, that's one of my favorite little tricks. As well as far as another, just one super general one, I tend to color by the biggest areas. If there's eyes like here, or if she was talking with a mouth, I usually go back through and color those last. Just because I can typically do point and click adventure from like this view and just kind of go through every single frame pretty quickly. But those parts, the eyes and the mouth, I like to go and zoom in and either color like that, or I can also outline it and then color it like that to get those parts, because they are a lot smaller. And it will help for that detail work, okay? But yeah, keyboard shortcuts are also very helpful. Explore the options that are in your program. You can have most things set to that, whether it be tools, specific even colors that you might use all the time. You can play around with, I want to say it's, yeah, okay. Keyboard shortcut to switch between two colors. There's all sorts of things. Get to know your program, and that can also help with your speed. But that's going to be about it. I hope that this was helpful and at least gave maybe you some ideas on how to do some line art as well as coloring in a more efficient and ergonomic way. Okay, again, it's so important to take care of yourself, all right? Take care of yourself while you're doing these wonderful art or animation or any sort of things, okay? So that you can continue to create them for a really long time, okay? All right. Well, I hope you have an awesome day. Work in a healthy way. And I'll see you in the next one. See ya.